So I'm in my early 30s working for a catering company when I find out I'm going to be the personal chef for Jane Fonda and Ted Turner on their honeymoon. That's right, she of the great exercise empire, famous actor, nutrition expert. He founded CNN and owned the Atlanta Braves. Power couple for sure. I don't have any help. I've got these guys, an entourage of about 10 people at a remote ranch for 4 days for 10 people out in New Mexico. No stress. So I pack up and I head out in the middle of nowhere, and I get there and I'm amazed by the beautiful surroundings. Surrounding me are jagged mountains and cactus and jackrabbits, and in the middle of that, an old ranch with a pretty up-to-date kitchen. And I get my stuff all brought in, and I set out an appetizer in the living room for when they all arrive. It's some guacamole and pico that I made, and some fresh plantain chips, and a centerpiece with colorful New Mexico chilies. I'm back in the kitchen prepping for the first meal, and the helicopter arrives, and they all run in there, and they're all having a good time, and I'm just sticking to my guns. And right then, this guy comes running in and goes, "She ate a pepper. Her mouth is on fire. I need a glass of milk." So I give him the glass of milk, and he takes off. And I think to myself, adventurous or naive? I have to go with adventurous. And only a few minutes later, in walks Jane Fonda into my kitchen. She's carrying a blender, which she sets down on a counter. And she walks over to me, and in that voice, she said, "Hi, I'm Jane." Matt. She said, "Well, Matt, as you can see, I travel with a blender and a recipe from my good friend Sly, Sylvester Stallone, of course. And I'm going to meet with you every day and find out what's on the menu and then skip out on one meal so I can make my blender drink. Is that okay with you?" "Oh, yeah, that's fine. That's great." So every day in the morning after I get Ted his coffee, Jane would come in and hang out with me, and I found her to be quite down to earth, except for these, which were anti-gravitational. 55 years old and absolutely super fit. Well, we got to know each other a little bit. She asked me about my cooking background and so on. And then, it started to wear on me by about the third day, because I was getting Ted coffee at 5 in the morning, and I was up after midnight doing dishes, and I hadn't slept, and it was super stressful cooking for these guys. On the third day, they all go quail hunting out in the desert. And my brief says, if they come back with quail, prepare it for dinner. Otherwise, you've got a plan B. Well, middle of the afternoon comes around. Things are kind of chill. I'm finally taking a breather. And there's no word. They're not back. There's no word that they're coming back. So I go, I better make the plan B dinner. So I take out this gorgeous big pork tenderloin, and I roast that off on the outside, slice it through into medallions, leaving a little bit attached so I can roll it into a crown. I've got wild brown mushrooms. I saute those. I do a red wine reduction on that, and then cream, reduce that, and then mount that with butter, and that goes on the pork loin with the fresh herbs. And then I've got colorful bell peppers and summer squash and fresh fennel, and I make a stir fry of that, and then I make a great big salad, and they're still not back. And so I'm holding everything, and boom, the door bursts open, and there's the guide standing with a brace of 15 succulent Mearns quail. And all I can think is, shit, I'm doing the quail. And I grab the guide, and I pull him aside. I go, Ed, help a brother here. I don't know how to dress a quail. He goes, "Shears?" So I hand him my kitchen shears. He goes, "Cut them off at the knees, nothing down there. And then take your thumbs like this. It's just like taking off a coat." And sure enough, you pull it apart, and the skin and feathers all come off. And he says, "And then thumb here, eviscerate, you're good to go." Thanks, man. And I did, and I went right through those 15 quail. But now I'm going a mile a minute in my head going, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this so fast? I lightly season the quail breasts. I dredge them in flour. I put them in a slow oven. I'm making a sauce. Okay, what am I doing? All right, butter, shallots, fresh grated turmeric, Egyptian coriander seeds. Yeah, go Indian. Clarified butter, white wine, reduce. Great. Okay, what am I putting them on? I look over there. I've got half a cornbread from leftover from breakfast, a blue cornbread and some chicken livers. I fry up the chicken livers, I put them with the cornbread, I make a stuffing, I lay it on a platter. I take out these 15 breasts and I make them all in an oval around on top of the stuffing, and I pour this golden sauce all over the top. And just as I do that, in 20 minutes, birds that were flying an hour ago, they all sit for dinner. And I bring out the pork tenderloin with the red wine sauce and the mushrooms and then the colorful and beautifully scented vegetables and this gorgeous salad and fresh Italian bread I'd baked off. And then I bring out the stuffing with the quail all around it. And I'm about to dodge. And they all stand up and applaud me. And I'm so shredded. I bail. I run into the kitchen. I can't take it. I turn off the lights. I'm just leaning against the range. There's a little light behind me. I'm looking at the floor going, breathe, breathe. You did this. You pulled it off. You made these 2 meals. You did the quail. They liked it. They clapped. You're good. And then I hear the door open from the dining room because the laughter picked up. And then I hear these footsteps across the Saltillo tiles. And I'm thinking to myself, what did I forget? What did I screw up? What did I ruin? And I look up and it's Jane. And she comes over to me and she gives me this hug. This hug was not an average hug. I felt stirrings in my pork loin. I was standing there hugging the OG brick shithouse, Barbarella. And she looked at me in the eyes and she kissed me on the lips on her honeymoon. And she said, Matty, dinner is amazing. And all I could think of was, Mr. Turner, I'll have what you're having.